A bona fide movie star, Will Ferrell, and his recently transitioned friend Harper Steele embark on a 17-day road trip to learn about each other and a little bit about what it's like to be trans in America. Let's talk about the Netflix documentary Will and Harper. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my movie review for the new Netflix documentary Will and Harper. This is getting some buzz, no doubt, due to Will Ferrell's involvement. But yeah, we'll talk about this here in just a moment. First, though, let me welcome you back to Dan Reviews It. If you're one of my subscribers already, thank you so much for returning to the channel. If you're not, please consider subscribing down below or click that like button, comment below. All that stuff, of course, helps the channel out. So look, Will Ferrell, he is everybody knows him, right? And he's been a part of our lives for about 30 years almost. I think he debuted in SNL in 96, maybe. So going on that 30 years. And when he got there, there was a writer who was just a regular writer at the time, but eventually became the head writer of SNL in, I think, the early 2000s for like a season, shortly before Tina Fey took over that position. But in any event, the two became very, very close, and it was Harper Steele under a different name, their dead name, which they do reference a few times in this movie, just at the beginning to kind of set the stage. I won't say it here, but in any event, over COVID, Harper decided that she was ready to finally go through with transitioning and living life as a woman. And so, the two of them still friends, but lived kind of separate lives. And so they decided, you know what, let's take a big, long road trip cross country and kind of see the sights, but also talk to people and see maybe a little bit what it's like to be trans in America. And look, I say a little bit because obviously there's going to be different reactions to people if Will Ferrell is standing next to them, right? So I have trans people in my life, and certainly their experience is not necessarily that of Harper's, but I think there's a lot of positive things to say about this movie. There's some negatives too. We'll get to those. But let's kind of stay in that positive lane for now, because I had a roommate that transitioned actually while they lived here. And one of my former coworkers is currently transitioning, and one of my high school buddies has transitioned, years and years ago. So there are trans people in my life, and it's interesting because a lot of times people don't know if they're able to ask questions, and stuff like that. And this movie kind of tackles some of those issues. Harper is very, very open about who she is and what she has gone through, and her thought process, and a lot of things. And Will, to his credit, asks some interesting questions. I don't know how many of those are, pre-scripted or whatever, but in any event, it comes off as pretty genuine. And because there is this SNL aura around these two, there are a ton of SNL cameos at the onset. Before the road trip, they sit down and have a nice dinner with people like Seth Meyers and Tim Meadows and Tina Fey, and kind of talk about everything and talk about their experience with Harper, as a writer and as a person and all of that, when she was living as a man. And then also, towards the end of the movie, once they get more to the West Coast, we see some other SNL alum. I won't sort of spoil them for you, so you can enjoy the movie. But yeah, it's an interesting look at being trans in today's society, and what that means, and the sort of mental process to decide to transition. And when is the right time, and did I wait too long, and whatever. And Harper, to her credit, is pretty candid about a lot of these responses. And look, I think that's the point of the movie. I think if she was going to be a little more coy, with things, maybe wouldn't have made for a very compelling movie. But I think it also does need to be said, that this is one person's experience. And she points out a couple of different times in the movie, look, that might have gone differently if I wasn't with Will Ferrell. So she gets it. She's lived her life as a woman long enough without Will Ferrell by her side that, but again, just sort of in her own town or whatever. She hasn't gone cross country and seen America. And yeah, there are some ugly parts for sure. And Texas as a state was, at least the place where they went, the restaurant where they went, was not very responsive in a good way to Harper being there. And they look in the movie at some of the tweets that came out from their dining experience. Somebody had put up a photo or whatever. But there were cameras everywhere from people's cell phones and stuff. It's Will Ferrell, and so there was a lot of negativity coming from Texas. And I'm not saying that's all of Texas, certainly, but this movie sort of painted that in one of the worst lights. But there were other times when they thought maybe things would go one way, and it went a little bit nicer. They were hanging out in a Walmart parking lot, and somebody came up because they saw Will Ferrell, and then ended up talking to Harper a little bit as well, and making some positive interactions, about her being trans and everything. So there's some interesting things to talk about. This is an important movie, I think, more probably for cis people than for the trans community, because I think they already know their own experiences, and maybe their experiences are a little different, from Harper's. And let's not forget, Harper was the head writer on SNL. She's also got a little bit more money probably to really transition with all of the right drugs and everything. Like, my roommate struggled with that, paying for the drugs needed. So mileage is going to certainly vary, but this is one person's journey, and I think it's certainly an important and interesting topic. Now, my negatives on the movie is I do think it's a little too scripted. You can tell, I think, in some of the spots that maybe they were prompted to, oh, hey, Will, ask this question or whatever. It didn't come off as quite authentic. And then there's also a lot of product placement here, specifically for Pringles and Dunkin' Donuts. It was a little distracting. Maybe they didn't have enough funding for this movie, so they went to outside sources. That part didn't quite really gel with me. I feel like a documentary should not necessarily be, taking product placements, but whatever. But either way, look, I think it's an important conversation to have. I think it's an important movie to watch. And if nothing else, look, Will Ferrell is just one of the nicest guys. I may not love all of his movies, but he has always come across as a decent dude, kind of like Sandler, from that SNL camp as well. His movies are a little hit or miss for me, but I think Sandler's a decent dude. So anyway, I will leave Will and Harper with a B. If you are interested, you can check this out now on Netflix. Thank you so much for watching Dan Reviews It. I'll see you next time.